So, hi, hello. We are in a new place just because I'm changing the sheets in my bedroom. So, we are in the living room. So, for this part 4 of reading Colleen Hoover, we have five books to read. We have Too Late, Without Merit, All Your Perfects, Maybe Now, and Verity. So, that's the next 5 books that we are going to read. Start. So the first one that we read was Too Late. And this is basically about this girl who's living with her abusive boyfriend. And then that basically is a drug dealer. And basically what happens is that she meets this new guy that she really likes. So that was short synopsis. I gave this 2 stars. So basically I didn't like any one of the characters. And that is something that is so important to a book. For me to read it, I have to like at least one of the characters. So it's just I didn't fully love any one of those. Truly didn't care. I mean, if I know a person, you are going to hate that person. Basically, it's okay if I like the other person, but I didn't like any one of the 3 that we followed. And this one sort of have insta-love, and that is something that is for me really difficult to like. Just because I don't usually like insta-love, for me it's really difficult to basically make that if I'm going to like it, because I usually never like it. I mean, even if Asa, which is the abusive boyfriend and drug dealer, his perspective gave you something, but I didn't like being in his head. That was really creepy. It's not something that truly like drags down the star rating. However, I also feel like since you are following Asa's perspective, you kind of know what is going to happen in that book, because you are following him and know what is going on in his head. And then I feel like it dragged a little. This book is almost 400 pages, and after a while I didn't care anymore. And that is, I need to care, to like a book, and I didn't fully care about this book. I have tried reading this at least once before, and I couldn't get through it. So 2 stars. The next one is Without Merit, and I hated this book. I give it 1 star. This is basically about this girl called Merit who has a twin sister and all this weird bunch of guys in her house. I don't know how to explain this book because I didn't like it, and I didn't actually follow along that well with this book. So I hated this book. This family was a mess, and I didn't like anyone in this family at all. No one. And everyone is mean in this family, and that is just too much. And basically what really bothered me was that Merit, she was sent to therapy, and she definitely needed it, but it was just in the beginning only she was, going to therapy, and I'm like, maybe you actually all should go to therapy. So this one definitely has suicide triggers, because she basically takes a bunch of pills. So that is like, yeah. This book, it wasn't likable, and no one was likable, and I have to say that they were always on Merit's Merit's sister side, never on her side, and I feel like basically you can't choose who to always believe. If you have a bunch of children, you can't only go with one and say that you are always right, almost. I just felt like the twin sister, you got the feeling that the parents didn't like Merit at all. To be completely honest, it was like, yeah. And the love interest, I would not have liked him after he tells me that he didn't like me in the beginning. He found me unlikable. And basically, if I were to, you know, be okay with him actually saying that, he needed to do a lot of groveling and he didn't. I didn't like this book at all. There was nothing that I liked about this, and I mean, I got halfway and I kind of wanted to DNF it, but I just kept going, and I shouldn't have, to be honest. Then we have All Your Perfects, and I feel like this is the one that I have liked the most because, I mean, I have read this before, gave it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars again this time around because I feel like this is, I cannot understand this, but you know, because I have never had a kid myself, but this book is basically about these 2 people who are married but are having trouble and are basically deciding that maybe they should be divorced. So you're following in 2 timelines, when they met and now. So this book is heartbreaking, yet it's hopeful, and it's kind of the hope that is horrible to feel. And basically this one shows an ugly truth to life, and that is the kind of hope that can break you, because her infertility is heartbreaking, and seeing her go through that, and the couple drifting apart because of it, and they don't know what to say to each other, so they just don't communicate anymore. And I feel like, yes, communication is really, but sometimes you definitely know that communication is really difficult because he don't know what to say and she don't know what to say, and they kind of just, you know, they have just stopped. And then this book, it includes something that is usually a really big hard pass for me, and that is cheating. I have read books that I mean, can I call it liked? I get annoyed with cheating, and I think that is one thing that people will hate this book for having. And we are all entitled to our own opinion, and I think that is the make or break for a lot of people in this. However, I feel like in this book, cheating is never justified. Graham cheats on Quinn, which is the 2 main characters, with a girl from work. And basically the only reason he told Quinn was because she found out. And basically Quinn does not do anything to excuse or to like justify his actions. And when Graham gives her a stupid reason why he did it, Quinn basically calls him out on his bullshit, and Quinn later forgives him and states that the reason he allowed himself to mess up is because he gave up on us. But the book, it didn't justify it. I don't want to justify it. And even if Quinn may not blame him, we are all allowed to blame him in this book. And we also need to face it, cheating happens in real life, and we should never justify it in real life. But I also want to kind of say that what you decide to do after basically this has happened is up to each couple. And I personally know couples that have had one of the parts cheat, and basically they have decided to try again, and they are happy now. And that is a personal choice. But I also like that you see in the book that it's not okay to do it. So there is always, let's call it, there is always a bad reason for cheating. But a lot of times it happens when you kind of don't get what you need from the other person. And we also see Quinn, she's depressed. She hates herself for not blaming Graham. And she's broken at the same time as she understands why he did it. And I understand why he did it. It doesn't mean it's okay though. And she knows that it's him that messed up. That is something that I feel like you really need to understand, that it's not your fault, it's the other part. It's the part that cheats. It's your fault. Like, it's that person's fault. And yeah. And to be honest, I don't hate that they continue on their relationship, because it really, really depends on, yeah, I don't really know what to say other than that. It's a personal choice. I don't know what else to say. And I mean, there are a lot of people who say that cheating is the breaking point, and I totally understand that. And but it's also up to every single couple what they choose. We can only guide them, but overall, it's a personal choice that you need to basically make. Let's go over to something completely else, and that is Maybe Now. This is the second book in the Maybe series. We are still following Sydney and Ridge, and we also following Maggie, and yeah. So, I give 3 stars. Did I hate it? No. Did I love it? No. I like to see that Maggie is happy with Jake. But I hate that she in the beginning is doing things to hurt Sydney. And I know that she hurt Maggie first, but I don't think it's okay to try and hurt anyone if they hurt you first, just because it just creates this evil cycle of, made a bad decision with Ridge. But it's just, yeah, I didn't like that she was trying to, she wants what is best for Ridge, but she's also kind of trying to ruin Sydney, and that is something that I don't fully like, even if they basically cheated on you. I don't think it's okay to the bad person, because it's not your fault. And I just feel like you should move on and basically just, yeah. So, Sydney apologizing to Maggie, that was good, because she was a part of hurting Maggie. But overall, it was Ridge who made the choice to cheat in the first book, in the first place. And I feel like she doesn't blame Ridge, but it's kind of his. I mean, he was the one who basically made that choice. He could have said to Sydney, he could have not let Sydney in, since he was already interested. So yeah. And one thing is, I just don't feel like Sydney and Ridge are the people that we met in Maybe Someday. I don't feel like they are the same. And yeah. And then in the beginning, they're getting married all together, and I mean, who does that? Some of them have known each other for longer than others, but just, yeah. And then, when you get to know more about Maggie and Jake, the book is over. One thing that I'm really wondering is what happened to Maggie, because what happened to Maggie? I want to know, but we just didn't. Then, the last book is Verity, and I give this 2 stars. So this is basically about this woman, let's call it a woman, who basically is going to be a ghostwriter for this man's wife, who is basically in a coma. And then she comes there and weird things starts happening. So, the only thing that I liked about this book was the ending. It was interesting, unexpected, and unexpected. Let's just call it that. It was really, you expected it to happen, but you didn't expect it to happen. And I mean, the letter that Verity wrote, that just made you scream. I mean, that was something that I sort of expected, but also didn't, and it was wow. And then one thing that I really need to talk about, like, have any one of you noticed that in a lot of Colleen Hoover books there are cheating? And what is up with that? The only person I found interested in this was Verity. The other two people, not so much. It's just, yeah. So this was something completely different. And I mean, reading the book that Verity, like the biography Verity wrote, was nuts. And the man that Verity basically married is nuts, crazy, and it's just really, really strange. Let's just call it that. It was, yeah, it was a wild ride. The 2 stars is because of Verity, because she was really interesting and smart. So yeah, that was all the books that I have read for this vlog. Not this vlog, this video. And yeah, I am really, I don't know, am I looking forward to reading the next 5? I don't know. That will be the last video, because I mean, that will have 6 books, because it's 6 books left. So yeah, I don't know how that will go, but let's see if I like any one of those. So yeah, I hope you liked this video, and I will see you next time for another one. Bye!